Talk Line on Metro News. So this session, wow. So this session, we've talked endlessly about, let's see, well, roads, we're not done talking about that. Balancing the budget, that frankly, we're just really just starting to pick up, frankly. That Religious Freedom Restoration Act, the brunch bill, which actually has a life. The brunch bill is not dead. The mimosa bill is not dead. What else? Raw milk. I didn't spend too much time on that. But there were, and I heard an undercurrent this session, the advanced practice registered nurses. But there was an undercurrent, too, of I would hear, well, there's also legal reforms. And last year, that was the dominant theme of that session, a right to work, a prevailing wage, and about legal reforms this session. And I heard, and somebody would pitch me and say, well, there's this legal reform going through. I never even paid attention. Just because other things were going on, I didn't hear much controversy about it. Greg Thomas is a Republican consultant in West Virginia. Also, he's very active with Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse. They've been pushing for, those are the guys who've been pushing back against this judicial hellhole thing, saying that West Virginia is a judicial hellhole, but now it's not because the legal reforms that have been made. And Greg joins us this morning. Greg, good morning. How are you?
Doing well, Hoppy. How are you?
I'm fine. I didn't hear anything about Senate Bill 7, wrongful conduct. I didn't hear anything about Senate Bill 14, successor liability. I didn't hear anything about Senate Bill 15, learned intermediary. I'm not even sure, frankly, what they are, but you say they're significant. Why are they significant? Why didn't I hear anything about them?
They are significant. I think the reason you didn't hear much about it is, look, the personal injury lawyers had a stranglehold on the legislature for decades, and they fought back a little bit last year. But I think once people saw that the reforms that we were pushing were bipartisan, were very moderate reforms to take our broken legal system and just push it into the mainstream, these sort of bills just haven't been as controversial. I mean, I think people do see that we're taking a very reasonable, rational approach to just making sure that our courts are fair and that West Virginia isn't way out of the mainstream. The learned intermediary bill is one of those. I mean, it's a complicated bill, dealing with doctors and pharmaceutical companies and all this sort of thing. The only thing about it was West Virginia was the only state in the country that didn't recognize it. So that's an easy bill to take to these legislators and say, hey, 49 other states do it this way. We don't. Let's just be like them. And they passed it. The outside counsel bill, I mean, this is one where our Attorney General, Patrick Morrissey, put in a policy within his office to make sure that you didn't have the rampant misuse of the office that Darryl McGraw did, to put in, so the legislature this year has codified that policy. We think that's going to be something great moving forward. The wrongful conduct bill, I mean, this was something that, our judicial activist, Judge Brent Benjamin, authored last summer. And
judicial activist? Wait a minute. You're calling Brent Benjamin activist. A judicial activist?
Judicial activist. That's what that bill had to overturn is judicial activism, certainly. And so that's what that bill did. We had a successor liability bill, which is an extension of more asbestos lawsuit stuff. We've actually got another big one called seatbelt admissibility that's in House Judiciary. We're hoping to get that through. So look, we're going to keep pushing. We hope to keep getting 4 or 5, legal reform bills a year done over the next few years. We don't expect to come in and have one like we did last year where we literally passed 12 or 15 bills. It was the top priority. But look, West Virginia is no longer on the judicial hellhole list, but we have a lot of things still wrong where we're out of whack. We're trying to get into the mainstream, and we're going to keep plugging away. And we think within the next few years, if we go out here and get 4 or 5 bills a year, we can say that we have fair courts. We'll start to see it. Job creators.
Well, that's what I'm asking. That Greg Thomas is with the Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse. Also, he's works on behalf of Republican candidates. 2 things is with all of these, and you're spiking the ball a little bit, and that's fine. Then the judicial hellhole people should just take us off the mailing list. I mean, it shouldn't even be under consideration now. That was a badge that West Virginia had to bear. That was a yoke West Virginia had to bear. Significant changes should not even be in the discussion now. A and B, where's the payoff going to be for the state? Because the argument's going to be, has been, well, this is going to be good for business. So will there be a quantifiable payoff from all these changes? for the state?
I think there eventually will be. I think, but the until we get there, though, I think job creators are going to have to see, will these reforms withstand challenges that will inevitably occur to our state Supreme Court? I mean, all of this stuff takes time. It takes time to set in. It takes time for the state Supreme Court justices and the circuit judges and everybody to sort of put all this in place and really see it in practice in courtrooms around the state. But I think people are going to look and say, hey, what does this new, the court isn't as bad as it once was, but it's still not good. I mean, that's why there's going to be a lot of focus on a state Supreme Court race coming up here in May. We've got a nonpartisan election coming up, and that's where our focus is going to be turned to.
Well, let's talk about that, because you opened the door to that, and you talked about Brent Benjamin. 12 years ago, you guys, Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse, were all in on Brent Benjamin, getting Warren McGraw off the court, getting Benjamin in there. Benjamin won, and now you guys have turned your back on Benjamin and turned your support toward Beth Walker. What's Benjamin done that, in your opinion, is so wrong?
Well, look, I think Benjamin turned his back to conservatives, to being a conservative justice. I mean, that's what he turned his back to. And I think, look, we didn't go out there and elect somebody. We went out there and made sure that Warren McGraw did not get reelected. I mean, look, and now we've got another McGraw running this time, Daryl McGraw. Look, and I think, look, voters in West Virginia, they want to move in a new direction. The McGraws personify our state's failed, corrupt politics of the past. Obviously, this time, we want to make sure that McGraw does not win again. I mean, that's going to be a key focus. We cannot have a super activist personal injury lawyer back judge like him in there. And now with Benjamin, and I don't know how much you've covered this, with him not getting, potentially not getting the public financing, the tax funded campaign. Looks like that nightmare will be over. But look, right now, Beth Walker's the best candidate, running the best campaign. She's in a clear position to win. You're seeing more and more job creator groups come out here and endorse her. You're seeing a lot of conservatives and independent, fair-minded people across the state.
Well, let me go back to the McGraw thing. Let's talk about strategy, because with 5 people in the race, Daryl McGraw has tremendous name recognition in West Virginia. Yeah, some of it's probably bad, but he's got name recognition. This election's going to be on us before we know it. He could win the thing with 23% of the vote, conceivably, 25% of the vote. So it's he's a likely or possible winner just because people know his name, and the election's going to be here in a couple of weeks.
I believe that once voters are reminded of the McGraw legacy, they will reject them just the way they did in 2004 and just the way they did in 2012. But that's going to happen, and Hoppy, if I were a betting person, I would bet that will happen.
Well, in 2004, you had a little bit different circumstance. You had the And for Sake of the Kids money from Don Blankenship, which made a big difference. You had the rant at Racine, and also when Daryl McGraw lost the Attorney General's race, it was a one-on-one race. I mean, now you got 5 people. All you need is 1/5 of the vote. So the dynamics are a lot different. So let me ask you this. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, but that's also the case for, here's the other thing. Beth Walker has a couple of advantages. Not only is she the best candidate in the race, she's running the best campaign, but I also think she's got a regional advantage. She's the only one of those 5 candidates that's north of Route 60. She has a gender advantage. And really, I just think she has an advantage to the fact that she's the only person up there that isn't being backed by the personal injury lawyers. Essentially, the personal injury law, you talk about McGraw does have a certain percentage of the vote, but that personal injury lawyer's support is being split up several different ways over there, where essentially everybody that just wants a fair court is backing Beth Walker.
Well, okay. Greg Thomas is with us with the Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse, and also is a Republican consultant. Do you think that this legislative session is spinning like a? I don't know how it's spinning here right now, and a lot of weird stuff is going on. They got serious budget issues. Not sure how those are going to be resolved. Is this going to be a problem for Republicans this election year?
I don't think so at all. Look, I think most of the problems these guys are tackling have been caused by 80 years of one-party Democratic rule. I mean, and right now, these guys aren't focused on, hey, we got to make sure we keep throwing the Democrats under the bus. They're up there voting on things to try to create jobs, to fix the legal system, to try to, there's a lot more to do on the taxes and on the budget and all that stuff. But, they've got to approach that stuff head on and take it on. But, look, those problems were caused by the Democrats. These crumbling roads that you talk about every day, the roads did not suddenly crumble when Bill Cole became Senate president. I mean, this is dereliction of duty of the Democrats for decades and decades. West Virginians have finally had enough. They said, we're moving in a new direction. And I think as long as these Republicans go out there and campaign and say, you know what, we're moving the state in a new direction. It wasn't broken. It wasn't broke overnight. We're not going to be able to fix
I understand,
it overnight. Here's our plan to move forward. And they're going to, if they run positive campaigns to move the state forward, they're going to continue to win.
Greg,
if they
I
don't go
understand.
out there and communicate their message, then they will have.
Well, I mean, I understand that logic, and I understand that approach. However, we have short attention spans anymore. Look what's happening at the national level, and there's going to the blowback against whoever's in charge is pretty significant right now. So it could be like, well, you know what? We elected you, and the roads still are crumbling. We can't get it. The budget is problematic. Nobody got a raise. There's problems with PEI. So they might get blamed just for being there, even if they haven't had a time to fix it. And also this whole coal downturn's created problems. They might get blamed just because they're there.
I mean, I think if they don't go out there and actively campaign and run campaigns where they say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I've been doing in the legislature, these are the solutions that we're trying to implement, they could be, but they are going to do that. I mean, our guys, everybody acts like it just like we woke up one day and we had majorities in the legislature. I mean, that was a multi-year process. We went out and found candidates. We ran real campaigns. We built up support. We did messaging. That stuff isn't going to go away. And the other side of that, Hoppy, is what's the other side's response? I mean, what are these guys going to say? We just want to take it back? I mean, everybody knows that they failed. Everybody knows they failed. They know they failed. Everybody knows they failed. Our guys are going to have to go out and say, look, we're working to create jobs. We're working to balance these budgets. We're working to do this stuff. And you know what we're not going to do? What those guys did. Because what those guys did left us in this mess. We have solutions. We're going to move the state forward. And as long as they're doing that, we're going to be in a good spot. And, Hoppy, most of the reason that people are anti-government right now and all that is the federal level stuff anyway. Look, we got a presidential election coming up here. I mean, Hillary Clinton's going to get beat badly here. I mean, no matter who it is. And if it's Trump, we're going to win big, right? I mean, if it's Trump, who knows? It may be 70-30 or something crazy. I mean, he's going to do well here if he's the nominee. That's going to lead the ticket. You're going to have, we're going to have a competitive governor's election, though. We're going to have a competitive governor's election. And look, Bill Cole's been focused on creating jobs, moving the state in a new direction. He's going to have a lot of positive things to go out there and campaign on.
All right.
Yet, he's still going to have a competitive race with Justice because, look, if Justice spends his billions, he's going to be tough to beat. And then I guess we'll find out.
The primaries, haven't had the primary yet. Greg Thomas, Republican consultant, also with Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse. Greg, always spirited when you're on the show. Thanks for coming on.
All right. Hey, appreciate the opportunity.
All right, man. Talk to you. We'll be back. Stay with us. Let's go to open phones the rest of the way. 1-800